Hello and welcome back to another episode of the On the Sideline podcast with Jackson and Kyle. I am Jackson, and I am joined here, as always, by the man with a new and improved lighting setup. Kyle, how are you doing?
Doing great. I am lit, as the kids say. I know that was cringe for some of you. It's okay. I'm gonna roll with it. I'm
Sure.
doing good though. I'm doing pretty good. Been checking in on some basketball this afternoon. The Bulls are a fun team to watch, and then ready for some picks.
A lot of good stuff. Does it count as saying, as the kids say, if we're in our mid-20s? Are we allowed to say that?
Yeah, I'm not a kid anymore. I'm gonna be 27, and basically, what is it now? I'm gonna be 27 in 9 days, man. That's crazy.
Oh,
So
wow. Happy birthday. I didn't know. So what is it? The 7th?
the 7th, yep.
Wild. Everyone make sure this coming 7th on January, wish Kyle a happy birthday. I feel like that's got to be tough, right? Having a birthday so close to Christmas. A lot of people probably try to give you, one gift for both holidays.
That has always been the case for me. It's
Hmm.
always been kind of tough, but one of the benefits to it is my birthday typically revolves around the national championship game. So I usually set up some sort of party for myself that basically only I attend, and I eat wings and watch football. So can't get much worse than that.
That sounds nice. Yeah, my last birthday, my AC died, and I have a July birthday, so that was not fun.
No, that isn't fun. The worst was when I used to live in the north and it like snowed all the time, and so I couldn't do like half the things I wanted to do for my birthday because it was like cold.
Uh-huh. Yeah,
So
that's. I mean, just cold in general just seems like the worst.
it's not fun sometimes. I gotta say, snow's a little overrated.
I mean, I like it for like. Oh, again, I promise we will talk football at some point during this podcast. Again, like when I spent the week in Wisconsin and it snowed, that was a lot of fun. That was cool. But like, I don't want it to be like my everyday life. Anyways, we've gotten way sidetracked already, Kyle. Let's get into the Pick'em show. Kyle, you are on a roll here, and also it's kind of nice we don't have a Monday game that we have to recap because we already recapped it yesterday. If you guys missed that because of the weird schedule, it's on the channel and on the audio only feed. Check that out. Kyle, you're on a roll here. You're on a heater.
Yeah.
Up 8 points with only 2 weeks left in the regular season, although the playoffs can be where the game is won or lost.
Yes, I am. I am rolling right now. I'm feeling good. I'm hitting my locks, which is the biggest thing too.
Mm-hmm.
Might take a few chances this week. I'm looking at my schedule. I'm checking it twice. I got a
Mm-hmm.
couple. I got a couple games here that I find really nice, and I think I'm going to take a couple chances here, take some risk. I got a little bit of points to work with.
Okay, interesting. An interesting teaser. You want to just get into the picks?
Let's get right into it. What are you giving me first?
All right, I can't believe I'm giving you this team first, but there's a team on this that I don't want to touch of a 10-foot pole. I've maintained this. I'm giving you Browns Steelers first. I just don't want to be near the Steelers or the Browns really. It's Browns at Steelers. Browns are 3-point favorites. Where are you going?
I am going to pick the Browns. I can't get off this team, man. This team's way too talented to lose this game. I think this
Hmm.
puts the Steelers to bed. I do think they're a better team. I do think they're still going to run the ball well. I think they're going to be able to make enough throws on that Steelers secondary to make this work. I know Baker hasn't been good, but I mean, he's the better quarterback in this matchup still, sadly, probably. So I like everything about the Browns. I hate everything about the Steelers. It's just been a weird year for the Browns. They haven't really done anything well. Or they haven't really capitalized on what this roster is and the talent. So I just got to take them to win this one.
Yeah, I mean, I think the clear thing is like there's a very real chance Baker Mayfield throws this game away. And I know we can sit here and say like the flip side is Ben Roethlisberger is the other quarterback. I get all of that, but I think it's probably fair to say he probably won't have that happen again. I don't know. It's just a weird team. I guess here's my question: the Steelers play the Browns and the Ravens the final 2 weeks of the season. They're currently 7-7-1. They need one win to get to 500. Do they do it?
The Steelers,
Yeah,
who's their last game of the season?
Ravens.
They might win that one because the Ravens are just in a terrible spot too with their stuff. But Lamar should be back too. So I'm gonna say no. I don't think that they do it. I think they finish 7-9-1.
All right. Yeah. Interesting. I don't totally disagree. I don't know. This is it's a weird team thing where I think both these teams still technically do have a chance to make the postseason. Like the Browns at 7-8-1, they win their next two. Like they're probably there's a good chance they win their division if they win their next two. Actually, I'm not sure about how the tiebreaker would work with them in Cincinnati. I could see it going either way. I don't know. It's a fascinating one. I guess really what this comes down to is this just totally feels like the game the Steelers for absolutely zero reason win.
Yeah, I mean that's possible. And we've talked about this all year. They just win these games because they have a good coach and they have some good pieces still. They have some, star players and high level talents. I just don't see it being this game. I still think the Browns cover pretty well. And like, how are these guys going to get open for Pittsburgh? And how is Ben Roethlisberger going to make those throws on a good coverage unit?
Yeah, I don't. I guess I don't know. I could still see something happening. I could still see this. I guess the flip side is what we know about the Steelers is their defense can still be very good. Their defense is capable of pulling out a win, and they get fluky plays. They get these turnovers, which you just can't happen. Which that's kind of a good situation when you're going up against Baker Mayfield, a guy who is prone to turning the ball over.
Yeah. And they're not one of the best in the league at takeaways per game or anything like that, but they still
Mhm.
managed to get some. I just think I don't know. I just feel like that. How many takeaways do you think the Steelers need, or like because we keep talking about this with the Steelers that they win weird ways and they do the it seems kind of lucky sometimes, but like what exactly needs to happen, like for the talent discrepancy to make up here? Do they need two or more turnovers? Do they need basically a punt return for a touchdown or a big special teams break? Like what needs to happen for the Steelers to win this game realistically?
Yeah, they needed at least one big splash play, probably multiple. But I guess my point is, I think that could totally happen.
I think it could too, but betting on that week to week, I just can't do it. That's why I'm just going with the Browns with this one.
Fair enough. Are you saying you think this maybe was a reach first overall pick, giving you Brown Steelers?
I had it high on my list, but I did not have it number one. So
All
um,
right. Well,
it's close.
let's just get in there then. Which one did you have number one? What are you going to give me here?
I'm giving you this one just because of the variance of it. I don't really know what to think of this team, especially with the questions. So as far as I know, we have no indication if Carson Wentz is asymptomatic, which is the only way basically he's going to be able to play someday, and he's unvaccinated, which I guess doesn't really do anything with the new protocols. But anyways, he is. We don't know if he's actually asymptomatic or not, which is the only way he plays. So if Carson's not ready, I think this could be a steal at number two. Let's go Raiders Colts.
Raiders Colts. This is an interesting one. Yeah. Do we have a? I'm blanking on his name now. The Texas guy, Sam Ellinger. Will he play? I'd be excited to see Sam Ellinger. I think the Colts still have a very real chance to win. What's interesting about this game for me is definitely the Colts running attack versus the Raiders run defense. And the Raiders take pride in stopping the run. The Colts take pride in being able to run the football, even when they don't have their entire offensive line playing. So that's another fascinating situation. Also, I saw Darren Waller is on the COVID list now at this point, which I think is a big blow. As yesterday we were saying, oh, great, they'll have Darren Waller back. No, probably not. I guess I don't know. They're still up in the air with a lot of these stuff. But if he's not there, I don't know how the Raiders are going to move the ball that well against the Colts defense that's really improved since the beginning of half of the season. They played a lot better in this back half. They made some defensive adjustments to really help their team out. So their defense, maybe not spectacular. I like it against the Raiders attack. Really, the way the Raiders win this game is if Derek Carr just kind of drags them kicking and screaming to a victory. I just don't know if that's going to happen. I am going to pick Indianapolis, but I think it's, the 7.5 points. I think I would like the Raiders to cover that spread.
Yeah, I think that they should cover that spread. I think that spread's a little high, especially just with the way the Colts play. They're not really going to be prone to blow any teams out. But yeah, I mean, I do think if Carson doesn't play, like I don't, we're obviously not the biggest Carson Wentz fans here, but I do think there's a pretty sizable difference between him and Sam Ellinger in his first NFL start, right? So I think that that's a big thing if he's not able to play. But like you said, the Raiders, the way this offense has played, like
Oh, did we lose your video?
I don't know why my camera was unplugged. There it is. I'm
Okay.
back.
Uh,
That was weird. Okay, so the way the Raiders have played though, they have to like Deshaun Jackson has to have like one or two big plays, right? Because that's the thing that we've seen. Obviously, it's been the story looming over this Raiders team was the entire mess of the middle of the season. And I mean, I think the biggest thing personally wasn't even Gruden. I think the biggest thing was Henry Ruggs because it changed this entire offense, not having him as a deep threat, a vertical threat on this team. And Deshaun Jackson has had spurts of it, but he's not the same player as at this stage of his career as Ruggs is right now. And so he needs to have a couple big plays in this one to keep the Colts defense honest. Otherwise, I think it's going to be tough to move the ball.
Yeah, I think you could also argue maybe the biggest thing about this team has been the loss of Darren Waller, who again,
Yeah.
that's a big aspect as well. I guess my thing is, if your plan is, well, we need Deshaun Jackson to have a couple of big plays, I don't know if I love that game plan going in. I don't know if I love your chances in that. Like, it can happen. It's totally possible, but I would definitely, I trust Jonathan Taylor more than I trust Deshaun Jackson at this point in, his career.
Yeah, but they've still been able to win the last couple of games without him having those things. So I just think it'd be, for this game to win this caliber of opponent, I think they might need it. And maybe he's able to have, at least one big play to keep the defense honest. We'll see. It is, I do think the Colts are a better team. But like I said, if there is no Carson Wentz, I do think that this is a game that they can win.
Sure. Although, worth mentioning, they've won they won the last two games due to their defense, really. They haven't scored
Yes.
20 points since that game, the Thanksgiving game against Dallas. And before that, you actually have to go back to October 24th, the next time they scored over 20 points. So we're talking, what is that? In an 8-game stretch, they've only scored 20 points twice. Like, that's not good enough. And their defense is solid, but they've kind of just been mediocre in both aspects. Part of that is just the way they run their offense, less possessions. That does happen, but still, offense is probably going to have to be better against Indianapolis. I could see it. I think it's possible. Very entertaining game for the Raiders. Season's on the line. You ready to move on?
Yeah, we can move on.
All right. So now I'm going to give you a game. I'm going to give you divisional matchup, kind of similar style, but I'm going to give you Broncos Chargers of another team. Broncos technically not out of it here. The Chargers trying to rebound after a tough loss. Where are you going?
Oh man, I hate this. I'm going Broncos.
Oh,
I'm going Broncos here because the matchup is completely in their favor. I like this Broncos rushing attack to go at the Chargers. I know they didn't do well last week, but I still like this Broncos rushing attack. I mean, literally anyone, it seems like at this point, that's, close to the league could run on the Chargers. And Javonte Williams is very good, I think. So I think he's going to be able to run on the Chargers. I think even Melvin Gordon's going to be able to have a couple big runs on the Chargers. And then, all the matchups kind of point to the Broncos in that way because they can run the ball and they can play defense and cover extremely well. And we've seen now that, with the way some of these defenses play, can the Chargers attack this coverage unit, especially if they're not 100% in their skill position, guys? I like the Broncos here.
yeah. I mean, listen, there's some precedent to what you're saying. The Broncos beat the Chargers 28-13 the first two times these teams played. So there is logic there. I'm not going to criticize that too much. I guess the question remains of, will the Chargers offense struggle the way it did last time against Denver, or will they be able to make some adjustments and get more things going?
Potentially, but at the same
Mhm.
time, it seems like, I don't know, it kind of seems like that we haven't really, I don't know if we've seen a whole lot of things that have changed with the Chargers from week to week. It seems
Mhm.
like it's just like they do the same stuff, and against the right teams, it's going to work, and against the wrong teams, it's not going to work. And this feels like the wrong team for it to try, doing what they do. And I just don't know if that's going to work against this team.
Yeah, I don't totally disagree. I guess I have a question for you. Let's throw this out there. I think the kind of what we sort of feel like is that the Chargers are a much more talented team. Do we know that the Chargers are a more talented team? Could you argue that these are equally talented teams?
Yeah, I think you
Hmm.
could. I mean, I probably would, honestly. I think that
Hmm.
the argument is obviously going to be that the Chargers have more stars, and I certainly think that's true. But I think top to bottom, you might say 1 to 53 or whatever the number is now. I think they've expanded some of the rosters or done different things. From the first guy to the last on the roster, you might say that the Broncos actually have a better roster Just that I think that the Chargers have a few more stars in their team.
Is it even a few more, or is it just they have the star of Justin
They
Herbert?
well, they have stars. I mean, I would still consider,
Broncos have
Keenan
Tim
Allen.
Patrick.
What's that?
Broncos have Tim Patrick.
They do have Tim Patrick. That's my guy. You know it.
Hmm.
Keenan Allen, obviously, I still think has some stardom to him. I mean, I just think that it's I do think it's pretty equally matched, though. I don't see, I mean, these teams are one game apart, so it's not really that's hot takey.
It's not. I guess here's the one thing I would. I think that there's even more logic in behind what you're saying. Like, one thing about the Chargers too is we keep talking about. Okay, well, what they do is they put all their resources in coverage. They're trying to cover, right? That's what they're trying to do with the Chargers. Both these teams kind of do the same thing. Uh, but the Chargers, especially, it's like we're not going to worry about stopping the run. We're going to make sure we have resources to cover. They haven't covered well. Like coverage unit has not been great. I think that's another aspect. It's like, how are you guys still only covering okay? PFF has their coverage unit ranked as the 19th in football. It's like part of the issue is, maybe you posed the question that Brandon Staley might be overrated. Maybe it's just the team isn't around him. It's just isn't that great, and he's doing what he can, but there's just not a lot of talent here.
That part of it is probably true too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because I mean, they really haven't done anything very well defensively.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I would probably agree with that. I think we're ready for this team to be good because it's really entertaining and we like watching this team. But maybe it's okay to say this team's a little further away than we think.
Yeah. The flip side, though, and here's I think where I'm still picking the Chargers and feeling good about it is I'm going to take Justin Herbert over Drew Lock any day of the week, and I think that's a huge, just that big of an advantage. It's going to be the talent. I don't think is far enough away in the rest of it for the Broncos for me to feel comfortable picking them, even on the road, quote unquote on the road, probably a neutral site there in LA. But I think I gotta go with Justin Herbert over Drew Lock.
Neutral site is going to be a Broncos crowd.
Yeah, mhm. I'm being optimistic for the Chargers.
Yeah, I mean, I can't dispute that. I'm definitely taking the risk and picking, Drew Lock in this situation. But I still like the matchup for the Broncos. I think they're going to get it done.
Yeah. Isn't part of this too though? Like for Denver, it's like you're coming off that deflating loss against the Raiders. Couldn't you see this kind of just be a phone it in game?
Yeah, because I mean, right now under 500, you could easily say the season's over,
Hmm.
and the coach is probably done. Uh, so I mean, if that happened, I wouldn't be surprised too. I mean, there's a lot of risk with this game, but I mean, both of these teams are coming off deflating losses. I mean, I don't know what to think about either of these teams right now.
Yeah. Are you gonna lock up the Broncos here?
No, I'm not.
All right, not gonna Drew lock it up.
Not gonna Drew lock it up. We
Right.
can move on though, and I will
Sure.
give you the next game, which I'm gonna have everyone get mad at you in the chat. Let's do Dolphins at Titans.
Dolphins at Titans. Yes. Yeah, I had this one. I had a couple games in between this one and where we're at now. Listen, I think this could go either way. Like one really interesting thing I'm fascinated by is the Dolphins, who love the blitz, who love to go man on man. Uh, couldn't you see a total scenario where if they try to zero blitz, AJ Brown makes a catch, breaks a tackle, and gets an 80-yard touchdown? Like that just seems like so obvious that like that could kind of thing could happen and could actually get the Dolphins off their game plan a little bit because of that threat, which could be good news for Tennessee. I think the flip side as well is I'm interested in seeing Tua and this Dolphins offense attack a good defense. I'm
Hmm.
fascinated to seeing what's going to happen there. And I think I'm going Tennessee here. I still like, I like Ryan Tannehill a lot. I think, AJ Brown and Jalen Waddle on each side are both really good receivers, and the defenses are both very good. This seems like a game that could go either way. I do think I'm going to go with the Tennessee Titans here, though.
Yeah, it's basically, can the Dolphins coverage unit make enough plays to give the offense some short fields? Because I do think that the offense that we saw last or a few days ago against New Orleans, I don't know if it's good enough to beat Tennessee. I think it can do. That's just personally what I think.
Mhm.
We did enough Dolphins talk, I think, yesterday to go. We don't have to go too in depth with it, but I think that they're going to struggle to throw in this coverage unit, like you said, and I think Ryan Tannehill's really good, and I think AJ Brown's very, very good. I think they're going to be able to make some plays.
Yeah, the Titans have not given up 20 points in 4 straight weeks. They haven't given up 24 points in 7 straight weeks. So although they did, the 5 weeks ago was when they lost to the Texans, so that's kind of funny. But their defense has played very well. Again, I think the AJ Brown, what they did last week against the 49ers was kind of hilarious. The way that basically AJ Brown got like all of their targets, which is that's the right thing to do. Do that again this time. I think that's probably what should happen. We also have the great overlap 618 in the chat. That's right, boys. One more day closer to Jackson wearing a giant penguin costume once TB12 goes back to back. Doubt him now, die a believer. Hey, totally, hoping that works out. Would love to. Hopefully, I'll be wearing now it's a giant penguin suit. I thought it was just a regular size penguin suit. I don't think I guess I would be a giant penguin. So I guess that does check out.
Yeah, you'd be larger than the natural penguin. So, yeah, makes sense.
Right. Back to the football now. This is it's really a fascinating game. And this is something that I think a few weeks ago, if you asked me, okay, Dolphins at Titans, who do I have winning? It's like, okay, obviously the Titans. I do think, though, this might be the first test we've seen in this win streak of Tua playing against a really good defense, right? You look at a lot of the teams they played. They played the Saints last week, which was a good defense, but also their offense was so inept that it made things easier. And they still only put up 13 points. But the flip side is 13 might be enough to win this one. I could see it being a low-scoring game.
I could see it too. And like I said, I mean, it really comes down to, can this defense make enough plays? I mean, I don't know. I'm pretty confident. I don't think the offense is going to do enough in this game personally. Now, I could be wrong, and they could, hit some of these shorter passes and create some big plays out of it. I just think with their lack of being able to run the ball, with what I've seen from this Tennessee coverage unit, I think that they're going to struggle on offense side all game. It's just really, can they get some short fields from their defense, which is a possibility, but I just believe in Ryan Tannehill to make the difference.
Yeah, and I think that I guess the last thing I'll say about this is we've seen the Dolphins find ways to get turnovers. The Miami Mammals turnover magic. It's a real thing, and I guess the fascinating thing about that is we've seen the Titans kind of have those games where they've sort of imploded a little bit. I think back about in the Steelers game when they turned the ball over 3 times in 9 plays, fumbled the ball 3 times in 9 plays. If they don't do that, they're currently, controlling their own destiny for the 1 seed. It's kind of crazy how that sequence basically completely has changed the outlook of the AFC right now. So that's really interesting to me. And I could see if there is a big play, I could easily see that happening. I could also see Tua doing one of those, dumb interceptions that we've seen him do this season from time. So it should be an interesting game.
It'll definitely be interesting. At this point, I'm just convinced that I'm going to pick against Miami until they make the Super Bowl, and I'm just going to look like an idiot every week. But it's possible.
Yeah, eventually you have to be right, I would assume, or maybe not. Who knows? Let's move on. So I'm going to give you a game here. I'm going to give you one of just 2 good teams, because when 2 good teams play each other, who knows what's going to happen. I'm going to give you Chiefs at Bengals here. Bengals red hot, Chiefs also red hot. Where are you going?
All right, another big risk here. You had a good pick stretch here, I think. I am going with the Bengals. I'm taking Cincinnati in this game. The big upset. Chiefs are going to have to wait one more week for the 1 seed potentially, or they lose to Tennessee. You never know. But I am going to take the Cincinnati Bengals. I think they're playing lights out football right now. I think Joe Burrow's been on another level, and I think the Cincinnati defense is pretty good. They're currently 7th in run EPA and 12th in pass EPA defensively. And I think they're going to be able to do enough, because I think one of the things that we've seen with this Kansas City resurgence is that they've been able to run the ball well, and Clyde Edwards-Helaire has looked as best as he has as a Chief throughout his early career. The thing about the Bengals, because of DJ Reader and what they do, they can stop the run pretty well, and they don't need to put a lot of guys to it. It's not like they're stacking these boxes to prevent the run. They have an elite level nose tackle that can do it. I think they can slow down Edwards-Helaire with that, and also dedicate plenty of numbers to the coverage. So I'm going to go with the Bengals here to win this one. Big risk here. I like it, though. I'm taking Cincinnati on the win.
You like your own risk. I love the confidence. Are you gonna? You're feeling confident? Are you gonna lock it up?
I wrote it down as a candidate,
Ooh, well, you're gonna
but
lock. All I have to do is win.
I'm not gonna do it. I'm not gonna lock it up. I'm gonna stay
Okay.
disciplined. I have a couple more games I like a little bit more.
Yeah, I don't hate Cincinnati in this one either. That's why I gave it to you early because I think that this is and this was I think third or fourth on my list personally. I think that what's really interesting about this is if the Chiefs try to do what they like to do, which is sort of play a lot of man and show cover too, but obviously they blitz a lot and have safeties picking up receivers and things like that. Like I don't want Jamar Chase on too many one-on-one matchups, but I could see that happening. And the reality is the Bengals have three really good receivers. Like they have three receivers that could go all over 1,000 yards this season. My issue with the Bengals is I could totally see Zach Taylor like running the ball 30 times in this one. Like that's still like always an X factor picking the Bengals and this is kind of why I've been thinking about like, okay, why do I feel so strongly about Joe Burrow being good, but like the offense hasn't been like incredible. And then like they're still, they kind of they haven't like lighting the world on fire. I think it's just because like Zach Taylor can't help himself but run the ball like and have these weird game plans from time to time. Like that's still an X factor here.
It is an X factor, and I hope that they are able to throw the ball more. But I do want to point out too that Kansas City is right in line with the Chargers with 4.7 yards per attempt rushing allowed. Like I know the defense has obviously been better over the last few weeks, but there's still a team that can give up some rushing yards. So, even I think Mixon can have some success in this game. And then you mentioned obviously with the blitzing stuff, the Chiefs, they're not quite as high as the Ravens, but they do blitz a lot. They're, I think in the top half of the league in blitzing. And I mean, we've seen what this Bengals team has done to the Ravens twice, who are, the quintessential we blitz a lot team. And Spags has definitely shown that he's willing to blitz a lot too. Can they have that same sort of success against the Chiefs defense?
Yeah. Luke Brown in the chat says, who does Jackson hate more, Zach Taylor or Dan Campbell? I mean, unequivocally, Zach Taylor is who I hate more. Like Dan Campbell, I just feel like people were like, after 2 weeks, were like, this guy is a coaching god. He is the next, great thing. And I'm just like, let's actually see what he does if he has some talent. The Zach Taylor has legitimately cost his team football game. Let's talk about the other side though. I get what you're saying, and I think that what you're saying, you're making strong points about the the Chiefs running attack, or excuse me, the Chiefs run defense. The flip side is, so Kyle, if you look at total EPA, EPA can be used as a per play stat. That's how it's usually used, but you can make it a cumulative stat as well, sort of like a WAR. And if you do that, the leader in it is Patrick Mahomes for quarterbacks. So,
Yes.
which is just kind of like crazy to think about all these negative stuff we thought about Mahomes. Oh yeah, he's also leading the league in not EPA per play, but total EPA. So the flip side is, okay, if it's Joe Mixon versus Patrick Mahomes, I'm picking Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah, of course. And that's probably why I'm not locking it up, because it's like, okay, I'm picking against Patrick Mahomes, who could easily go for 350 and 3 touchdowns in this game. And then at that point, I'm like, okay, well, I lost.
Yeah.
But we've looked at the numbers. The numbers don't lie right now. I mean, there are legitimate statistics. Shout out to PFF, who have Joe Burrow as the best quarterback in football.
Sure.
So I think that it's certainly a. I don't know. Like, obviously, Mahomes, I still think is the better quarterback overall, but I don't think quarterback is the huge advantage, because I still think Burrow, even if they run the ball a lot, I still think Burrow is going to have his success and get his numbers.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I think that it's a game I could see going in either way. Absolutely,
Mm-hmm.
I think that this is a very fascinating one, and it's kind of for Cincinnati, as good of a run as they've been on as of late, they're still not in the playoffs yet either, and they've had some tough losses on their schedule that they'll really regret if they end up falling short here. And for Kansas City, you drop this one, now Tennessee is right back in that one spot, fast track for the 1 seed. So this is a huge game here with a lot of playoff implications on the line.
Yeah, both teams really need this one. It's going to be fun to watch. I think I just hope it's entertaining, which I think it's going to be. Looking forward to these two matching up.
Yeah. All right. Let's move on then. So now it's time for you to give me a game.
Um, let's go through the list here.
Just letting you know, Jaguars and Patriots is still on the list of games you could give me if you want to pick that one.
I did see that one. I'm going to hold off on that one for now.
Okay.
Wow, there's some duds going forward. This might be the worst week of like the discrepancy. I know some of these lines are close, but I disagree with a lot of these lines.
Wow. I think this is actually kind of there might not be a lot of like great games, but I feel like there's a decent amount of like games I'm interested in.
Um, let's go Panthers Saints. I don't know who's playing quarterback for the Saints right now. And like, is this just going to be like a 3-0 game?
Probably. Well, no, there'll be some turnovers that are create more than 3-0. Yeah, I think I'm picking the Saints. Saints are a 7-point favorite. I'm a little surprised. I had like I think 5 or 6 games still ahead of this one, so I'm a little surprised you have it here. I get it. The Saints have had the listen, if Ian Book is playing for the Saints, that's a concern. Like, that's a real thing to be concerned about. The flip side is the Panthers are intentionally starting Sam Darnold again. So, like, the upside for the Panthers is that Sam Darnold plays. Like, I think that I don't know how the Panthers move the ball against New Orleans in this one, I guess, is my main thing. Although, again, week 2, the Panthers did beat the Saints handedly, but lots happened since then.
Yeah, but the problem is that the Panthers are a Sam Darnold's the best quarterback in this on either of these teams.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
yeah,
that's a major concern too. So
you'd prefer Sam Darnold over Taysom Hill?
Yes.
I don't know if that's obvious.
I don't think it's obvious, but I'm just kind of done with the Taysom Hill experience. I've seen enough.
I don't necessarily disagree, but I've also seen enough of the Sam Darnold experience.
Yeah, I mean, but we've even seen games where I think like Darnold has looked all right. Now it's few and far between, but we've seen some glimpses of him looking all right, and I think that's why people every year kind of say like, "Oh, Sam Darnold could be a good sleeper." Like, I mean, Taysom Hill's a tight end disguised as a quarterback. So,
well, but here's the better question: who do you trust more, Taysom Hill against the Panthers defense or Sam Darnold against the Saints defense?
I guess by default, I'd say Hill, but at the same time, we've talked about Hill's fumble history and the mistakes he makes too. So, I'm not necessarily convinced either way.
Yeah, sure. You're talking me into it a bit. We also have a super chat. How long until you get a join button? I'm not exactly sure what those things are. Right, the things where it's like I guess I guess probably a while because I don't even really know what it is. But appreciate the super chat. 11 in the chat. But yeah, back to the Panthers Saints. Yeah, you talked into it a little bit. I think that there's a very real chance the Panthers win this one. But I would still pick New Orleans. I guess it still does come down to a little bit of the. I don't know. The Saints had a tough game. They were also playing a good defense too. That factors in of kind of why us in our heads a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, it's just the Saints. The Saints look bad. The Saints have looked bad a lot this last few weeks, except for against the Buccaneers. And that's the one team they always play. So I don't know. It's going to be a close one. I don't like these other 3 NFC South teams. Like, I just think that they all kind of stink. So I think it can go either way.
Yeah. Also, can I just say, like, as someone who people are going to say I'm not neutral because, of course, I want to root against the Saints or whatever. Although I feel like I don't really do that. Saints are an entertaining team to watch. But I think this year, Falcons or Panthers beat the Saints, get them out of the playoffs. Like, we don't need them this year. They're too injured. If they were healthy, I would say sure, get them in the playoffs. Panthers, do us all a solid, beat the Saints, and let's let one of the other teams in the NFC. Let the 49ers in instead of the Saints.
I agree. I don't really. I'm kind of done seeing this team too. I mean, the problem is it seems like no matter what, we're going to get a stinker in the NFC. Whether it's the Vikings, the Vikings, the Eagles, the Falcons, or Saints, it seems like we're just going to get one kind of bad team.
Yeah, but I'd rather the Eagles or the Vikings than the injured Saints.
I agree.
All right. Well, let's move on. Why don't we? I'm going to give you a game. I'm going to give you Rams-Ravens. Lamar's probably back, so that's exciting. Where are you going?
Lamar is back, but nobody in the secondary is back, so I'm taking the Rams. Sure. Cooper Kupp could have 1 billion yards in this game. I wouldn't be surprised. at the very least, he's probably good for 10 catches, 100 yards, and a touchdown because he's done that basically every week. So I like the Rams pretty easily here. It's just sad to I don't want to beat this team down too much because it's just been sad to watch what's left of this team. But
Mhm.
there's just outside of Mark Andrews and Lamar basically carrying this team to a win. I don't really see any other scenario where they win.
Yeah, I don't totally disagree. I also think that's a scenario I can envision, right? Like that's something I can easily
Mhm.
picture in my head is Mark Andrews and Lamar carrying a team to a win.
They're certainly good enough. I mean,
Hmm.
you're looking at probably easily a top 7 quarterback in the league and easily a top 3 tight end in the league. I mean, those
Hmm.
guys are certainly star level players that can make it happen. Um, But I don't know. With the guys on, it's just hard to even envision with the guys on the Rams defense. Like we talk about this Ravens team and the struggles they have when teams play man coverage. Who is getting open against this Rams secondary?
Well, I think they can scheme stuff open. I think that, again, for every fault you want to put on the Ravens' offensive coaching staff, they've never really had an issue of scheming stuff open against zone, which is primarily what the Rams like to play.
Yeah. Do you think they might change it up for this week?
Probably not. I don't know. I would probably bet on no.
Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't blame them if they did because it'd be a huge matchup advantage. Because I
Mhm.
just, with the way their corners are, I find a tough time seeing any of these guys getting open in man-to-man sets.
Yeah, I mean, listen, they'll play some man for sure, and maybe you'll even see one of these good corners for LA. Like, would you just put Jalen Ramsey on Mark Andrews? Like, why not?
Yeah, I mean, you could and
Mhm.
just kind of say, hey, well, we can, throw a couple different guys at uh, Hollywood Brown and try and cover him that way.
Mhm.
But even then, Hollywood Brown hasn't been great the last few weeks. So, I certainly think it's a possibility that they could just put him on him. Ramsey has great size for a corner too.
Yeah. So here's another thing. Going to the other side for a second. This is something that's interesting to me is the Matt Stafford situation. Because yesterday I kind of said it wasn't his best day, but I didn't think he was horrible. I went back and watched the All 22 today, and he was horrible. He was really bad. Like, it was a bad performance, and I didn't realize how many just blatant missed reads he had. Like we all crushed Baker Mayfield for that interception on Christmas where he threw it in the double coverage with a single safety deep instead of taking the route over the middle that he should have. Like Stafford had a number of those that didn't result in interceptions. So sure, a couple of his interceptions were kind of fluky, but he probably should have thrown like 3 or 4 interceptions that game the way he was playing. I wanted to check. I looked at his Pro Football Focus grade for that game, and it's the lowest he's had in a single game since 2013. So this was a bad Matt Stafford performance as well. Maybe it's just a fluke, but I think it's also fair to say Matt Stafford has not been what he was in the first half of the season. He's been a different quarterback. And we also talked last week about the Sean McVay, for whatever reason, every year Jared Goff started off strong and fell off a little bit. And now Stafford's doing the same. Is there some concern in that area?
Potentially, but at the same time, we talked about how basically his one good game over the last month and a half has been the Jaguars.
Hmm.
At this point, with what's left with the Ravens, I don't see much of a difference between the Jaguar secondary and the Ravens secondary right now.
Hmm.
Honestly, and we've
Yeah.
watched now. Granted, they've played Joe Burrow and Aaron Rodgers, who are great, but they got torched 2 weeks in a row. I mean, that was the 5th most passing yards in NFL history.
Hmm.
Um, I think if he doesn't succeed against this defense, I'm very concerned, obviously. But I think that I think he should be able to have success. It has been a weird stretch though, Ro. It's an interesting stretch.
Yeah, I mean, you're not wrong. And again, coverage certainly matters, especially when they just don't have anything that can really work. I mean, I don't know. I guess the one thing you can look at is listen. They were missing some of the guys that they can get back with the COVID stuff, like Jimmy Smith and Tony Jefferson should be back. We assume so. That would be a big step in the right direction for at least being able to field an NFL quality defense, if nothing else.
Potentially, but
Hmm.
it's still a
Not a
long
good
way to
one,
go.
but just
Yeah,
I mean, I
exactly.
literally mean one that could beat Bama.
Yes.
Hmm.
It's a tough situation. Yeah, I mean, I do think this could be kind of a get right game for the Rams, and they kind of blow them out. I thought about locking this one up, but uh, Lamar still scares me enough that I'm going to stay away from it.
Yeah, I mean, I still have the Rams winning this one as well. I think they're the right pick, but I'm just sort of, kind of the fun part about the way we do this show is we naturally have to defend each other's position, which kind of makes it for a more fun discussion. All right, you give me a game now.
All right, let's go to the NFC East. Let's go to Eagles at Balls.
Eagles at Balls, good one. This one also close on my list. Yeah, I think I'm going Philly. They beat Washington just a couple weeks ago. I don't really see why they wouldn't do it again. I know that it was with Garrett Gilbert at quarterback. So, Taylor Heineke, say what you want about him. I'd rather him than Garrett Gilbert. And also, I always kind of like picking a team after they got embarrassed. Like, they got embarrassed. Washington got embarrassed by Dallas. They're going to want to come back. They're going to want to play better. So, I could see it. I think that there is, in hindsight, maybe I should have given you this one a little earlier because I could see the idea of we did see the Eagles kind of, not necessarily explode offensively. Hurts made some mistakes in that one. There was a couple of turnovers in that game early on, although Philadelphia did then sort of rebound nicely. I just think that the issue is I don't know what Washington does. Their defense hasn't been good enough. And even they did a shift, and we were like, oh, maybe they have something, but teams are able to figure that out pretty quickly. And there's not really a lot left Washington has. Philadelphia was able to run the ball effectively against Washington last time. Don't see why they wouldn't do it again. And I think Philadelphia is the pick, but I can envision a way Washington does pull out the victory.
And the coverage is hurt for Washington, which doesn't help either. But I mean, I do see the roadmap for Washington winning. I do think that, even though they've struggled over the last few weeks, I do think that they can limit the run game. And while you kind of want to throw on this Washington defense, can Hurts make those throws? Can he do that enough to keep this defense honest? I guess would be the question. And with, Hurts coming back from that injury, he hasn't really run the ball well the last 2 games. That's been one of the kind of underrated things about this team is he hasn't really had to run the ball much, and he hasn't been able to run the ball as effectively as he did to start the year, which obviously he was great. And if he's not able to do that, does that limit Philly's offense enough to keep Washington in this and get the win?
Maybe. I mean, yeah, I would say so. As long as they can, I still think Washington needs a takeaway. They need a splash play to make this work. The final score last time they played was 17-7. And again, I know we can say, well, it was Garrett Gilbert there, and that's something. But also, like Antonio Gibson averaging 1.7 yards per carry, like that's not great either. Maybe you could argue it's because they were, stacking the box and now things will be open. Maybe. But I still think that I like the chances here for Philadelphia. Like I don't know, we say what you want about Jalen Hurts. I still like him a lot better than Taylor Heineke, and I think I like the rosters a lot better in Philadelphia's favor.
Yeah, and Eagles obviously have much more to play for too, which adds to it. So I do think it's the right side of this, but I do think that there's enough to this that I see a scenario where Washington wins, where some of these other games I don't really see the scenario.
Yeah, I don't disagree. Let's move on. I'm going to give you a game we're all excited to watch. I'm giving you Giants at Bears here. I considered even locking up the Bears, and then I was like, what am I doing? I'm not going to lock up the Bears. No, I'm giving you this game here. Where are you going?
I thought about it too for a half a second, and I kind of felt the same way. I don't really know who's going to play quarterback for the Bears, but I don't think it matters. The Giants suck.
Yeah.
I don't enjoy watching anything about this team. This team's pretty putrid. It's pretty, pathetic to watch, honestly. Who's covering David Montgomery doing anything? I don't really see any success from the Giants in this game. Montgomery is the best player on the field, it seems like, in this game, and I think he's going to have a lot of success. I do think the Bears win. I don't really have anything else to add.
Yeah. Do we think we see, if this going to be a Mike Glennon game? Do you put Jake Fromm? What would you do? Put in Mike Glennon or Jake Fromm here?
There might be high school kids that might be a better option than Jake Fromm right now. So, if they go get Cade Klubnik, that might be a better option than I don't know. You have no idea who that is, but
no,
he might be a better option than Jake Fromm right now.
I did not expect. What is that? Who is that?
He's the quarterback for Austin Westlake in Texas. He's won back-to-back state championships. He's got a 5-star quarterback going to Clemson. He's pretty good.
Oh, interesting. All right. So
watch out
honestly,
for him.
That's probably talking about that. We're probably more excited about talking about this game. Yeah, I don't have too much to add. We don't have to spend forever on this game. Let's just move on. Yeah, screw it. It's our show. All right, Kyle, give me a game.
All right, moving on. I think we're eyeing the same locks here, so we're probably going to hold these off to the end. I see two games that I really feel good about. I guess one of us is going to have to give the other to the other. We'll go with this is the best team of the underdogs, I guess. So I'll give it to you. Let's go Falcons at Bills.
Falcons wow. This feels like a bit of a reach here, Kyle. I'll be honest.
Well, I mean, my other options right now are the Jets, Jaguars, Texans, and Lions. Actually, no, I want to change that. Can I change it?
I don't think so. I've already put the banner up.
Ah, man, never mind.
Did you? I want to go out on a limb here. Did you screw up your notes? Or just a couple games that you didn't realize were still on the board?
Yeah, I didn't get a chance to put it in order, so I've been kind of reading it off, and I found a game I might have liked giving you a little bit more, but I'm okay with it. Let's go for it.
I think this is the wild reach right here. And again, I'm picking the Bills to win this. I'm picking the team that has the 14.5-point spread to pull off this one, Kyle.
Yeah, not a hot take. Atlanta is the weirdest team ever that they had this many wins. I don't know. So let's talk scenarios. So do you envision any scenario where Atlanta wins this game? Go.
Maybe like if we see one of those like classic, the Bills just keep making mistakes, sort of similar to what they did against Jacksonville. Like again, any given Sunday, anything can happen. Like I could see some way that Atlanta scores like 17 points, and then maybe you get like a pick six, and maybe that's enough to win. I could see it.
Okay, so let's see this, and then maybe I'll talk you into a little bit of something here. Probably not, but
Okay.
so let's say Grady Jarrett and company are able to limit this run game, make the Bills one dimensional, which they kind of are anyway. And then on the backside, you got AJ Terrell, who has maybe one of his best performances of the season. He is a very good corner, but let's say he takes out Stephon Diggs in this game, so. Obviously, you still are going to bet on Josh Allen, Isaiah McKenzie, Emmanuel Sanders, Cole Beasley if he comes back, all that kind of stuff. Obviously, is still enough to beat the Falcons. But if they're able to kind of limit this run game, make them one-dimensional, take Diggs out of the equation, and then you basically got those guys against Matt Ryan, Kyle Pitts playing lights-out football, and, of course, Cordarrelle Patterson, who can be this jack of all trades. Could that be, a scenario where maybe the Falcons pull off an upset?
Yeah, I think so. I think I could see that, and I think like even it's like to me the bigger thing is AJ Terrell taking away Stephon Diggs. Like that is the Bills' offense. It's Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs. Like that's what they do on offense. I pronounced offense weird on offense. So like that's a big thing, and I could see that happening. Like that could go a long way for sure. Yeah, I think it's possible, and I'll even go one step further and say like I like the Falcons to cover a 14.5-point spread. Like you give me the Falcons plus 14.5, I'm taking Atlanta here. But I just think that the Bills are a very good team, and they're coming off a huge win. And I don't think the Falcons are that great.
I agree.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All right. Well, okay. I guess if that's all you have, let's go. We want to move on.
Yeah, we can move on. Cover
Okay.
through that game.
Yeah. A little bit surprised that you decided to go, the Falcons at Bills over the Cardinals at Cowboys here is the one I'm going to give you. I feel like this is a bit of a steal getting it here. Kyle, is this the one you're locking up?
It was one of the two I had penciled in, and I'm going to go ahead and take it. I'm going to lock up the Dallas Cowboys covering 5.5. I think they win this game by a touchdown or more. I don't want to be too overreactionary to 1 week of results where obviously the Cardinals didn't look good and the Cowboys looked excellent, scoring 56 points. But what we've seen from this Cardinals team is without DeAndre Hopkins, the offense struggles more. They struggle to move the ball. There's more mistakes made. I think that they're going to struggle to find success, and maybe the Cowboys get a couple takeaways. I think Kyler and some of the stuff that he tries to do, I think he's a terrific talent. I think he's a terrific quarterback. But if he dances around in the backfield in this one, which he does from time to time, and, I guess you could say like all these mobile quarterbacks at times take bad sacks because they try to make a great play. But this is not the defensive line you want to take bad sacks with. And I do think that he's going to be prone to take bad sacks in this game. Plus, the Cowboys have created turnovers. So I like that their ability to create turnovers. And with this team kind of falling off coverage-wise, I kind of like the ability for the Cowboys to attack this defense. I got the Cowboys to win by 7 or more.
Yeah, here's an interesting question. Do you think that it makes more sense? By the way, I also have Dallas winning this one. Do you think it makes more sense? You have Micah Parsons, who is this freak athlete. Does it make sense to, well, he's gotten a lot of his snaps as a pass rusher. Would it make some sense for him to play more of just a traditional linebacker role in this one and kind of be a Kyler Murray stopper a little bit because his skill set kind of works that way, even though you're then losing a great pass rusher in doing so. I mean, the guy has a billion pressures this year. PFF's pressures gives him that 60 on the season, which is just an absurdly high number considering the fact that he's also, played coverage for 264 of his 827 snaps. Does that make some sense?
I think in a vacuum, there's some logic to that, but I don't really want to take him out of the spot that he's in right now. I like his ability to rush the passer. And I think the big thing, especially when you mention those pressures, is quarterbacks aren't getting away from him because he is such a freak athlete. So, he's still able to rush the passer and kind of get after quarterbacks and disrupt them. And even though I think Kyler's terrific, I don't know I think Parsons, even as a pass rusher, is a guy to limit him. And I think the biggest problem with I have putting him linebacker, sure, he'd probably operate as a spy a lot in this game if that was the situation. I think the problem is I still think the weakest part of his game, which is fine because I think for linebackers it's the toughest to adjust to in the league, is his coverage ability. And I don't want to get him stuck in a coverage situation at linebacker because I do think that's still kind of the weakest part of his game right now, even though I think he's going to be good at that spot going forward.
Yeah, I think that's interesting. Here's another thing I have that maybe is concerning about this lock. What's interesting about it is the Cowboys are seemingly this one team, and again, I like the Cowboys. I think they're a very good team. One other interesting thing I think though is it seems like they're the one team who we don't seem to hold against them that they've mostly beaten up on bad teams. Because you look at who they've beaten. They've beaten Washington, recently, Washington twice, the Giants, and the Saints, and then they lost to the Raiders. They lost to the Chiefs. They didn't beat the Falcons. They lost to the Broncos. So in this hot stretch that they're on, it has been against weaker competition. We're all talking about, oh, Miami's only beaten bad teams. You can kind of say the same about Dallas a little bit.
I think that's definitely fair. And I mean, the numbers don't lie there. I think it's definitely fair. I guess the thing is, the last couple weeks I've liked what I've seen out of this team more than I did during the stretch where they were losing games. And I don't think it was necessarily just about beating up on bad teams. I think it was just that the team was in a bit of a funk. They weren't healthy. I think it looks a little better the last couple weeks, and I feel good about it. Not to mention, I mean, this is probably a little harsh, but I'm going to throw the question out there anyway. Right now, are the Cardinals still considered a good team?
Yeah. Yes, I would say yes, that the Cardinals are a good team.
Okay. 3 in a row.
You think they might defining a good team, to me, I'm thinking of good team as like a playoff team, like a top 14 team.
Okay, so they're probably top 14, but right now, 3 in a row, including losses to the Lions and kind of looking mediocre against the Colts team that was pretty beat up. Is this? I think it's a fair question to say right now. This Cardinals team, if we saw this Cardinals team without Hopkins throughout the whole year, they might be battling for a playoff spot.
Listen, I think that what you're saying is like I like Dallas to win this game, and there's some real concerns about the Cardinals the way they played these past 3 weeks. They've lost 3 straight games. One of those was against the Lions, which is that's not a good loss on your resume. But the flip side is, I guess, when they lost by 7 to the Rams, they didn't have Hopkins, but they have they've won games even without DeAndre Hopkins this season. So I don't think that they're dead in the water or anything. I think that, I guess one big thing is you have Kyler Murray, who is just incredible athlete and the guy who was going to, the MVP favorite midway through the season before he got injured. I still think that I'm not willing to write the Cardinals off just yet, just because they do have this upside that we saw through the first half of the year.
Yeah. I think it'll be an interesting game, but yeah, I mean, I just think there's a stink on this team right now. I don't know if it's kind of a wall thing or I don't know what it is exactly, but I just think right now momentum says Cowboys should win this game pretty easily.
Yeah. Well, I mean, one thing about the Cardinals, and this is what we talked about going into this year, was they felt very star dependent. And, it
Yeah.
helped that Kyler Murray was so awesome that like it made kind of disguise that a little bit. And they were able to win some games with Colt McCoy. Cliff Kingsbury did a really good job, I think, this season. But the reality is, like, this is still a team that is, uh, they are still star dependent. When you lose one of those stars, it's just really difficult to get stuff going. So I think the Cowboys are the right pick. I don't even hate the lock. But I just I think I'm not willing to write off Arizona just yet.
It'll be interesting. Ready
Yeah,
to move on?
yeah, I'm ready to move on. Should be a good test though. They blow this one, maybe I'll change my opinion. So let's see. Time for you to give me a game.
All right, I'm trying to think now what you might be trying to lock up because I thought that might be your game,
Mm-hmm.
but you gave it to me. I'm going to give you the team I call the best team in football, the Packers, at home against the Vikings. Big divisional matchup. Vikings won it earlier in the year. Do the Packers win this one?
Yeah, primetime game. I believe this is Sunday Night Football. So it should be interesting and a big game. I mean, the Vikings basically need this one to get into the playoffs, and the Packers basically need this one to get the one seed. Again, it's possible they could, if Dallas does lose to the Cardinals, then they're probably fine. But there's a very real chance if they lose this one, they don't get the one seed. So a lot on the line in this football game for Green Bay, for Minnesota. I'm obviously going Green Bay. I know Minnesota won the first time. No Adam Thielen now. He's out for the remainder of the year. That's tough. He obviously means a lot to this offense. I also think that the Packers have just, played better football really since then. So listen, anything can happen. It's a divisional game and the Vikings won the first time, but I think that the Packers are the clear favorites in this one.
Yeah, I guess the argument is obviously that the Packers or the Vikings have to win, like you said. Um, they did it earlier in the year, and they could be able to do it again. I don't think it's out of the question. We've talked about this
Mm-hmm.
team's talent and how they can beat anyone any given week. They just beat themselves more than they, actually win games. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so, and then I guess the other argument you could say too is, we saw what the Packers defense was last week. They got a bunch of turnovers, but up until the last couple of weeks, Kirk Cousins has done a pretty good job of limiting turnovers this season. You could look at a guy and say, like, hey, if he does what he did the last time he played the Packers, he throws it to Justin Jefferson. They can have a big game offensively. We saw what Nick Chubb did to this team last week, and potentially Dalvin Cook could have the same amount of success. I do think
Mm-hmm.
there's a roadmap here for the Vikings victory. I still think they're a talented team, but my feelings on the Packers this year are well known. I like the Packers to win this game too.
Yeah, the Packers are really good. And, the last time these two teams played, Aaron Rodgers ended up with 384 yards on 33 attempts, 4 touchdowns to no interceptions. So he just completely lit up Minnesota last time these two teams played. Thought Minnesota's defense looked good against the Rams last week, but like it's got to be great to stop this Packers offense. And the flip side, of course, is the, Adam Thielen is gone, and this Packers defense has sort of played a lot better since that loss to the Vikings. Since then they've beaten the Rams, who still put up 28, and even the Bears technically put up 30, but a lot of that was special teams. I guess you could even now that I'm looking at it, the numbers aren't spectacular. I mean, they're giving up 20 points, over 20 points a game, well over 20 points a game since then. So maybe I'm wrong about that. The defense has had, and it has had some issues as well. I just think that again, I trust this Packers offense.
Yeah, this was one of the games of the year this year. Honestly, the first iteration was
Yeah.
ended on a game-winning field goal. Both the
Mm-hmm.
quarterbacks went nuts. There's like 4 wide receivers who went off in this game. It was a really fun game to watch. I'm looking forward to the rematch. Um, but yeah, I mean, have the Packers lost since this game? No, they haven't. Right, won 4 in a
No.
row.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I mean, I still think obviously the Packers are great, but this should be a fun game.
Yeah, I'm totally with you. Should be very exciting. Let's move on. All right, I'm going to give you a game. 4 games left. Only one has below a 7-point lead. In fact, below a 7-point spread. In fact, only one has below a 12-point spread. So I'm giving you that one. Lions at Seahawks. Are you going with your man Dan the Man Campbell, or are you going to be picking your arch nemesis and Pete Carroll?
I do have to go with my arch nemesis here because he has the best player in this game. He might have the
Mhm.
5 best players in this game, honestly, even though I
Sure.
don't like the rest of the Seahawks roster. But
Dan Campbell might be a top 5 player in this game still.
that's true. Don't discount Pete Carroll might still be a top 10 player in this game. He's like
Sure.
80 years old. Yeah, I mean, the Seahawks are still a better team. The Seahawks team I don't like at all, but I mean they're still better. So I got the Seahawks winning this one. I mean, I don't have too much to add to this. You know, yeah, I don't have too much to add to this, but I like the Seahawks.
Yeah, I guess this is almost a pride game for Seattle, right? I guess it's kind of a pride game for both teams, but the Lions lose, okay, whatever, you know what you are. For Seattle, it's like you had such high expectations. You can't lose to the Lions, right?
You cannot. You
Mhm.
shouldn't either. And even if you're, trending out and you're not going to make the playoffs this year, this is not a game you should lose by any means. So, can we talk about this for a second? Because this has been fascinating to me to
We can talk about
watch.
whatever. It's our podcast.
It is our podcast, so I'm going to talk
Mhm.
about it. What the heck has happened to Russell Wilson?
I don't know. Is it an injury thing? Is it? It's a good question because you're right. He hasn't been as, and this is kind of starting to become a bit of a trend, right? Where he does kind of seemingly start off hot and then fall off a little bit.
I mean, to be quite honest, like, so we constantly have him among the top 3 or 4 quarterbacks, and I mean, I feel like having Josh Allen number 3 ahead of him in our quarterback rankings has aged into a pretty good take for me. Um,
Hmm.
we talked about him among the top 3 or 4 this year, and last year he had that incredible start where Chris Collinsworth came out with the MVP vote thing and all that kind of stuff.
Hmm.
The second half of last year and into this year, I know he is hurt now, or he went through an injury this year. Really hasn't been good the last 20 games of his career.
Yeah, I don't totally. I mean, I don't know.
I don't want to say
He's
bad, but like not a top 5 quarterback, which is what we put him as.
maybe, maybe. I mean, the first 4 games of the season, he had 9 touchdowns to 0 interceptions. So, like, I get what he hasn't been a top 5 quarterback. That's fair to say. That's a totally fair take. I think that I'm willing to give him a little bit more of a leeway, giving him more leeway, just given the issues that have gone on around Seattle as a whole, and I don't know how healthy he is.
Yeah. He's still probably going to net a lot of first round picks,
Hmm.
multiple first round picks if he does get traded.
Hmm.
But he certainly, I don't think, has looked the same this year. And I think you could even go back to the end of last year when you say, okay, this is the guy we thought might be an MVP one day in this league. I don't know if I necessarily see that anymore.
Yeah, I mean, if you had to bet yes or no, I would bet no that he will never win an MVP. Well, here's another interesting thing I just sort of just thought of is Russell Wilson is someone who his legs are a big part of his game. That's a big aspect of his game. He's 33 years old. Like he's not some young player at this point, and it's kind of almost making me think a bit of a bigger picture as well of everyone's trying to find these guys who can move around and scramble and stuff. But it also kind of makes you think, does this mean that the quarterbacks are going to have shorter shelf lives as well if we're all looking for guys who can extend plays? Well, guys who can extend plays can't do it when they're 37.
Uh, I don't know if I've said it on this podcast, but I've always kind of had this take that, I'm not sure if we're going to see a thing like a Brady or a Rodgers again because I don't know if quarterbacks are going to play that long.
Hmm.
You look at some of these guys that are playing right now, like Mahomes has already dealt with injuries.
Hmm.
Um, Lamar hasn't, outside of this ankle thing, hasn't really dealt with like significant injuries, but like,
He has
you
wear
know,
and tear.
yeah, exactly. And
Hmm.
Kyler deals with an injury, it seems like every week.
Uh huh.
Uh, I don't know what the shelf life, like you said, I don't know what the longevity is going to be for a lot of these guys. And we've seen it in the past too. I think you even seen, I don't know the full numbers, but like, I think you can go back and look at guys like Randall Cunningham and say they dropped off pretty quickly.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have the Randall Cunningham stats in front of me, unfortunately, but I know I get your point. I think it's fascinating, and maybe this is good news for your guy Mac Jones.
Maybe we'll see.
Hmm. Yeah, but it is interesting stuff. Hopefully, we get to see some better Russell Wilson play down the stretch in these final 2 games. And especially hopefully for Seattle, if they want to trade him, get that draft stock a little bit higher. Kyle, 3 games left. Which one are you going to give me? I still have not locked up a game. We have the Texans, 49ers, Jaguars, Patriots, and Buccaneers, Jets as the final three.
Big Neck Mills here. Let's go. Let's go with him. Houston Savior against the San Francisco 49ers.
Are we making Big Neck Mills a thing?
I don't know. I'm down.
Okay. The Houston Big Necks here. This is
Everything is bigger in Texas.
That's true, including the necks of their starting quarterback. Yeah, I'm interested in seeing what happens with Davis Mills. Like, listen, he had a good game. Like, and he's had a couple of good games. He also has still had some stinkers, and I guess it's fair to say it's like the point about Davis Mills is not and has never been that we don't think he has any NFL qualities. It's sort of been, there's a number of things that he does poorly that have kind of kept us away from that as well. I'm interested in seeing what he does. But like, this is a game that the San Francisco 49ers should just destroy the Texans. And I know we said that last week as well, but this seems kind of like Kyle Shanahan should have just an absolute blast going up against Lovie Smith.
Yeah, I don't really know who's going to cover Deebo Samuel, George Kittle. I'm interested to see what happens, but I think it's going to be a tough matchup. Not a hot take. That's going to be a tough matchup for this Texans defense. Yeah, I mean, I do like the Niners. They also have no margin for error basically at this point because they lost that game against the Titans, so they have to go in and win this one. I think they should look good doing it. I do like the Niners, but of the games left, good upset potential here.
Yeah, I could see it.
Potential.
I could see it, especially because the Jimmy G thing is up in the air. Like if it's Trey Lance starting, let's say that. Who do you have? The Texans plus 12.5 or the 49ers minus 12.5?
With Trey Lance starting, I'd probably take the Texans to cover 12.5.
Yeah,
but I don't think it's like.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, I think the 49ers might be like 49ers by 10.
Right. Yeah. I still think that there's a real chance this works out well. Again, we always kind of talk about some teams take pride in the way they stop the run. Some teams don't pay as much attention to it. It seems like the Texans take pride in how they don't stop the run. That's like just elaborate thing they want to do. So it seems like this is one where you should expect San Francisco to have some success here.
Yeah, they should have a lot of success. I am interested in this Mills matchup. This is a pretty good defense he's going against. I want to see how he responds.
Yeah, sure. I mean, he's already established himself as one of the all-time greats, so see if he can continue it.
Yeah, does this put him in the GOAT conversation with a win?
Does this end the GOAT conversation?
Yeah, Davis Mills, number one.
Yeah, I'm not sure what the size of... Someone needs to Photoshop a GOAT with just a giant neck.
They just put Mills' neck on
it. I guess so. Just show a picture of Davis Mills. I think that's all you have to do. Let's move on. 2 games left, Kyle. So, hey, we got my team and your team. I'll let you pick your team, which lets you know where I'm going to lock up, but we'll get into that in a second. Kyle, your New England Patriots taking on the red-hot Jacksonville Jaguars. Who do you have winning this one?
They're red hot. They just lost.
They've been doing nothing but losing. It was what we call sarcasm in the business.
Sarcasm, right. I like the Patriots. Not a hot take. They're going to, run all over this Jaguars team. I want to see Mac Jones kind of have a bounce back game. After, a couple, he played 2 good defenses. I think he struggled at times. I even think, I think some of the stuff that I'm hearing about Mac Jones over the last 2 weeks is a little overblown. Like, I think he still had some good moments in each of those games, but I think he had some bad moments that people are kind of, criticizing him for, which is fair because, they lost the games too. So, quarterback wins. Most important stat, obviously.
Sure.
So I think that, I want to see him have a bounce back game, look good in this one from start to finish. I want to see the Patriots look good from start to finish because they've had a couple slow starts in each of the last 2 games. Let's finish the season strong, blow out the Jaguars, who they should beat by 20.
Yeah, I mean, they should beat the Jaguars by 20. You're right. And I think it's interesting. I mean, the reality is, so Mac Jones, in the past 3 games he's played, I would say that, in 2 of them, he wasn't great. The Bills game and then the Colts game, I thought that he, it's what I continue to say about like the difference between a Mac Jones and a Zach Wilson. And we're just going to keep having these conversations and Zach Wilson's not a great example, but like, even Trevor Lawrence, let's use the 2 guys from here, is for Mac Jones, you're supposed to be a good quarterback. Like that's your appeal, is that you're the guy who doesn't make mistakes. So it's kind of why you forgive a Trevor Lawrence a little bit more than you forgive a Mac Jones. And also, we're in the thick of things now. Like, you don't get to be a rookie now. You have to just be a quarterback. You know what I mean? Like, we're in the playoff hunt. You got to just start playing.
Yeah, it is tough because, obviously the expectations are rising because this team is going to make the playoffs. More than likely. High chance they make the playoffs. But, with the situation, he's got to kind of rise to that performance, like you said. I think he still has the capabilities. I still see really, his game against the Colts would have been considered a great game for Zach Wilson at this point in his career, from what we've seen from Zach Wilson.
Sure.
And I think that he still had some good throws and brought them back and gave him a chance to win the game at the end. Even in that, Colts game, he didn't have the touchdowns because Harris scored, but they started to move the ball in the second half, and it was, 26-21 late in that game. If I'm doing my numbers right. Was it 26 or 27? Anyway, so they're still in a position, get a stop and potentially win that game too. But obviously, the part of the reason they're losing is because he's thrown some more interceptions. He's had 3 in the last 2 weeks. He can't do that in this one.
Yeah, but again, that's kind of my point, though, right? Is like the appeal of Mac Jones that he doesn't turn the ball over and doesn't make dumb mistakes and doesn't throw interceptions like that. Like, we can't say, well, if you look at, take that out of the equation, because that's why you have a Mac Jones as your quarterback.
Right. I agree. And I do think that in the long run, he is going to limit those. And that's why I feel pretty good about it. Because I think the thing we are seeing, though, is that there's some explosive plays there. And I have liked that.
Sure.
And obviously, I do think in the long run that he's a, smart, good quarterback, and he's going to limit those mistakes going forward.
Yeah, listen, Mac Jones has been incredible as a rookie. Like, I don't think there's any denying that whatsoever. He's going through a bit of a slump right now. And this is it's a get right game against Jacksonville. I have a question for you, Kyle. I'm gonna put you on the spot. You have to do this to me. Jaguars, call up the phone. You're the Patriots GM. Bill Belichick says this is too much responsibility. I'm giving it to you. Jaguars say Trevor Lawrence for Mac Jones 1-for-1. What are you doing?
Probably not. I'm just gonna ride with Mac. I want to watch Mac Jones for the next 10 years. I'm okay with it. I'm okay with it. He's gonna win Offensive Rookie of the Year, so I'm okay with it.
All right. How much of this is the how much of this is with thinking with your brain, and how much of this is thinking with your heart?
Oh, 100% heart. I'm completely biased here.
Sure.
But you know what? It's okay to get attached to players on your team. I'm okay with it. I know plenty of Celtics fans who, with all this talk about Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown potentially being separated, I know this is probably going over your head, but there's guys who want to watch Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown in the Celtics for the next 10 years. I want to watch Mac Jones for the next 10 years.
Yeah, well, listen, I get it. It was part of why I was disappointed when we lost Jameis Winston, even though we replaced him with Tom Brady. It's like you like the guys that you like. It totally makes sense. I totally understand. I'd probably still rather have Trevor Lawrence, but again, we've talked about that to death. Let's go to the final game here. My 2 favorite quarterbacks, Tom Brady taking on Zach Wilson. I am locking up the Patriots, the Buccaneers, to cover a 13-point spread. I guess really what this comes down to is I just think the Buccaneers offense should be able to dominate this Jets defense. And the Jets defense has done some things all right, but we saw what Tampa Bay was able to do against the Panthers last week. This just seems like the kind of defense that they're just going to walk all over.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, even without if Mike Evans isn't there, and obviously there's still Chris Godwin isn't coming back, Antonio Brown and Rob Gronkowski and Cameron Brate as a third option, that's still enough.
Yeah, I'm not worried at all. So I think that this should be a this is going to be a fairly easy win. We know that Tom Brady has owned the Jets. It's in the it's in the contract that he owns the Jets. So yeah, I think that he wins this one, and I mean, I don't really see a scenario where the Jets can win this game. I don't see any scenario.
No scenario. Well, here's one thing I thought of is Could this, the fact that Todd Bowles does all this exotic blitz stuff and everything's, unique. And also, I do believe Tampa Bay has some of their corners in COVID protocol, along with their head coach, Bruce Arians, is in COVID protocol. So there could be an advantage for the Jets. And I also feel like the crazier things get for Tampa Bay defensively, couldn't that almost be like a benefit for Zach Wilson? Like, I was thinking about this the other day. And like, do you think that Zach Wilson would be better off, like, if the Jets just didn't call plays? Like, they just played like a backyard football where it's like, hey, just run and try and get open? Because I kind of think they might.
Yeah, you could just freelance. I mean, at
Yeah.
this point, it's probably better than what they're doing at times.
Hmm.
They're trying to get Zach Wilson to learn, so I totally get it.
Hmm.
But it is interesting to see that this could definitely be a scenario where you know this guy needs to freestyle a little bit. Let him cook a little bit in a different way because he's not your conventional quarterback.
Yeah, and here's the other thing that's sort of hanging in my head a little bit that just it's in there still is the Buccaneers love to get lit up by rookie quarterbacks. It's one of the greatest pastimes in Tampa Bay Buccaneers history is we love to make rookie quarterbacks look incredible against us. So I could see that happening as well.
Yeah, I could completely see it too. So I totally get it.
Also, the Jets, last week, Zach Wilson had a great improvisational play to get the ball to offensive lineman Connor McDermott, touchdown, which, again, you don't often see a scramble drill result in an offensive lineman getting a touchdown. Do we need to see Connor McDermott get some snaps at wide receiver?
What is the status of these Jets wide receivers? Because aren't like half of them out?
I think maybe as long as Connor McDermott is there, we're all right.
All right. Well, as long as they have him, that's okay. So here's a nice little bet for you.
Okay.
We gamble from time to time on this podcast.
Mm-hmm.
A 4-team 13-point tease. You could get the Tampa Bay Buccaneers at a pick'em, the
Mm-hmm.
Buffalo Bills at -1.5, the Patriots at -2.5, and the San Francisco 49ers plus a half a point. All that combined is -130.
Ooh, I kind of like that.
That feels like a winner, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think so. I think that. Yeah, I think that's a winner for sure. This should be a interesting week. After this week, we'll really be down to it. And Kyle, we still have no. It feels weird. Like we've had this long stretch of no football. We still don't get football again. Although at least college football is holding us over. And playoffs on Saturday. I always enjoy college football games that matter. The 6 of them.
Yeah. This will be a good game. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I think it's going to be fun stuff. It's okay. It does kind of suck that we're not getting the Thursday games for the rest of the season, but we'll be all right.
Mhm.
It is kind of weird saying week 17 and it not being the last week of the season, though, right?
Yeah. It very much is. I keep accidentally saying week 17 when I mean week 18. It's not. They should have made it week 0 to make it easier for our dumb brains to understand.
Well, college football does that.
Yeah, that's what they should have done. Week 1, make it week 0. I think. Yeah, I think that would have been the move.
Yeah, I'm for it. Let's retroactively fix that for next year. Week 0.
Exactly. All right. Not quite the marathon show we had yesterday, but still a very fun one. Kyle, let them know where they can find us before we head out.
Yeah, make sure to follow us on Twitter. That is at Jackson Kruger. Make sure to follow me at by Kyle Ronan. And make sure to follow the account page that's at On the Sideline JK. That is at On the Sideline JK.
Yes, of course, as always, we have the audio-only files. If you want to check that out, anywhere you get your podcast, that should be available. Kyle, any final thoughts?
Looking forward to week 17. Always rooting for my Patriots, but we're rooting for the Colts, and we're rooting for the Titans this week. Let's make it happen. Let's clinch a playoff spot.
Yes, and also some unfortunate news to report. This is the last On the Sideline podcast of the year.
What? Oh, yeah.
You
got me for a second.
Joke. Yes, got you for a second because, of course, New Year's is on Saturday. Love that joke. Gets me every time. All right. Sorry if I scared anybody for a minute. Thanks to everyone for watching. We do appreciate it. And, of course, as always, see you later, alligator.
Peace.